Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing great. And in today's video, we are going to discuss lesson 9.1, which is all about generating sequences. In question one over here, they are requesting from you to generate or to complete this sequence, knowing that the first term is 5, and that the term-to-term rule is add 2. So 5 became a 7, became a 9, so the next one is obviously going to be 11, and then 13. The next one over here, they're saying the first term is 0, and the term-to-term rule is add 3. So this is going to be 6, 9, 12. Next one here is minus 2. So this is going to be 9, going to be 7, 5, 3. The last one over here is that this thing to it is add a half. So this is going to be 2.5. This is going to be 3, 3.5, and this is going to be 4. Next question, question E here says to you, the first term is 210, and the term-to-term rule is subtract 20. So subtracting 20 from 210 is going to give us 190. Subtracting 20 again is going to be 170, then 150, then 130. After that, in question 2, they are requesting from you to do the same thing exactly, knowing that the term-to-term rule is add 1, add 2, then add 3. Adding 1 becomes 5. Adding 2 becomes a 7. Adding 3 is going to become over here a 10. Then adding a 4 makes it 14. The next one is add 2, add 4, add 6, and so on. So this one becomes 11. Adding a 6 becomes 17. Adding an 8 becomes 25. Let's keep going with question C. Term-to-term rule is subtract 3, then subtract 4, then subtract 5. So subtracting a 3 is going to become 17, while subtracting 4 is going to make it 13, and subtracting 5 is going to make it an 8. Subtracting a 6 is going to make it a 2 over here. The next question is requesting from you to identify whether each of the following sequences is linear or nonlinear. So the first one over here, if you notice, we're adding every time. No, not the same, mister. We're adding over here a 3. Look at this. I added here 3. Here I added 5. Then I added 7, and so on. So what's happening? Are you adding the same thing every time? No, we're not adding every time the same thing or minusing every time the same thing. So we call it nonlinear. So this is nonlinear. But mister, the next one over here, we're minusing a 5. Then minus a 5 again. Then minus another 5. Then minus another 5. So every time the same thing exactly is happening. So we call this linear. Adding here a 2, then adding a 2, another 2, another 2. So every time we're doing the same thing exactly, so it is linear. While in the next one, and the last one over here, we minused 1, then we subtracted 2, then we subtracted 3, then we subtracted 4. Now the same thing is happening every term. So we call this non-linear. All right, question 4, look at these sequences and write also linear or nonlinear. Again, following the same technique exactly. If the same thing is happening every time, then it is linear. If it is a different thing that is happening every time or every term, then it is nonlinear. Here we added here a 4, then I added a 4, added a 4, added a 4, so it is linear. The next one, I added 1.5, then 1.5, then 1.5, so it is linear. Here I subtracted a 4, then subtracted a 5, so it is non-linear. Next one over here, we added 1, then I added 2, then we added 3, so it is non-linear. Subtracted a 7, then we subtracted over here also a 7, then we subtracted over here also a 7, and so on, subtracting the 7 every time, so it is linear. Here we subtracted 3, then I subtracted 3, then subtracted 3, and so on, so it is also linear. Question 5, they are requesting from you to write the first 4 terms of each sequence. So they're saying to you the first term is 9. So this must be a part of my sequence. So the first term in my sequence is actually 9. They said this to you, so you must write it. Why, Mr. Am I going to write it? They've already given it to me. Yeah, because they requested from you already that they want the first 4, not the next 4. They said the first 4, then 9 is included. If they said the next 4 terms, then 9 is not going to be included. All right, so let's continue. Term to term rule here is subtract 4. So 9, then 5, then 1, then -3. Now I've provided them with the first 4 terms. Question B over here says to you, first term is 12. Term to term rule is add 5, then 12, 17, 22, 27. First term is 3. And the term rule is add 1, add 2, add 3. So it is going to be 3, then 4. Now I added 1, then add 2, 6, then add 3, 9. First term is 10. Term rule is subtract 1, then subtract 2, then subtract 3. These are the first 4 terms. First term is 64. Term rule is divide by 2, then add 8. So dividing it 64 by 2 is 32. 32, then add 8 is 40. Divide by 2 is 20. Then add 8, 28. Divide by 2 is 14. Then add 8 is 32. 22. 22. All right, next it says here that the first term is 8. And the term to term rule is subtract 3, then multiply by 2. Subtracting 3 becomes a 5. Then when you multiply by 2, becomes 10. Subtract 3 becomes 7. Times 2 is 14. Subtract 3 becomes 11. Then times 2 is 22. Cards A to D show term to term rules. Cards I to IV show sequences which all have a first term of 1. So I'm going to need to test this. Square, then add to 2. Then add 2 to it. So if the first term is 1, if you want to square it, it becomes also 1. Then you add 2, it becomes 3. So here, the first term is 1, the second term is 3. For part A, first term is 1. When you square it and then you add to it 2, it becomes 3. So A is actually this one. While B is add 2, so 1 plus 2 is 3. Then square it, it becomes 9. So this one over here is B. 1 becomes 9. C, they say to you square it. So squaring the 1 is going to become a 1. Then subtract 2, it becomes -1. So C is this one here. D, and the last card is definitely going to be this one. They say to subtract 2, then square it. So 1 minus 2 is -1. Square it becomes 1. Subtract 2 becomes -1. Then square it becomes 1. And so on. So this is D. Work out the first 3 terms of these sequences. The first term is 5, so I'm going to write 5 because they requested the first 3, not the next 3. Term to term rule is square it, so 25. Then subtract 19 becomes a 6. Square it, 36. Then minus 19 gives you exactly 17. Hopefully I'm doing them right. Yeah, 36 minus 19. It gives you exactly 17. Square it. They want only the first 3 terms, so I can stop here. Thank God, I'm not going to do that calculation. Question B here, first term is -1. The term rule is square it, so -1 squared is 1. Then add 1 becomes 2. So the first one is -1, then 2. Again, we squared -1 became 1. Add 1 to it, so becomes 2. Square the 2, 4. Then add 1, 5. That's it. First term is 4. Term to term rule, subtract 3 becomes 1, right? Then square it becomes also 1. Subtract 3 from the 1 becomes -2. Then square it becomes 4. Last question over here is the first term is -2. Term to term rule, add 2, then square. Add 2 to -2 becomes 0. Then square it. So first I need to write -2. 0 squaring it is 0 as well. Add 2 becomes 2. Add 2 to the 0 becomes 2. Then square it becomes 4. 3 becomes 4 and 1/3. It means I added 1 and 1/3. Adding 1 to the 4 becomes 5 and 1/3, but adding 1/3 becomes a 5 and 2/3. Adding 1 and 1/3 becomes 8 and 1/3. Adding 1 and 1/3, it becomes 11. Here, what is happening every time? We're adding 0.4. Adding 0.4. So if you want to add 0.4 more over here, it becomes -4. Add 0.4 once more, becomes -3.6. Mister, how come it's just 4 becomes a 3.6? No, it's not 4. It is -4 becomes 0, -3.6. Yes, the number is becoming bigger. These are negative integers, not positive. So yes, now it is becoming bigger. Mister, I have 2 that are missing over here. You can either go back this way or you can move forward this way. So here I'm adding a 0 point negative, I'm adding 0.4, so this becomes -5.6. Be careful, you're dealing with negative numbers, not positive. -5.2. Then -4.8. Next question over here, we're subtracting 4/5. This one, I minus 4/5. So minusing 4/5 again. Mister, if I take away 1/5, it's going to become 9. Taking away 3 more fifths, it is going to become 8 and 2/5. This one over here, taking away 4/5 is going to become 6 and 4/5. Minusing 4/5 becomes 6. Minusing 4/5 becomes 1 and 5, and 1/5. Here, what is happening every term? We're subtracting. Okay, that's the first thing. We subtracted 1.25. So subtracting 1.25 from here becomes 2.5. Subtracting 1.25 here becomes 1.25. Subtracting 1.25 becomes 0. But here, I must say, you need to add. We're going backwards. Add 1.25. So it becomes 6.25. Adding 1.25 becomes 7.5. Next question here says to you that the first 3 terms of a sequence are 3, 10, 38. Which of these cards, A, B, or C, shows the correct term-to-term rule? 3, if you square it, it becomes 9. Add to it 1 becomes 10. Okay, but is this then answer question A? Well, you will be making a very big mistake if you choose A. Why? Because if you try it with the next term, 10 square it becomes 100. Add 101, which is not the case over here. I have 38. So that's not the case. What are we supposed to do? You're supposed to check the other cards. So this is wrong. We're not going to take it. B, multiply by 4. Well, 3 times 4 is 12. Then subtract 2 becomes 10. Am I going to circle B? No, I need to continue the test. 10 multiplied by 4 is 40. 40 minus 2, 38. Well, it worked. And even if you try the third card, you're going to find that it's not going to work. Cube 3 is 27. Minus 17 is going to be 10. Yes, but if you try it with the 10, it will not be 38. 10 cubed is 1,000. 1,000 minus 17 definitely is not going to give you 38. Question B here says, Which is the first term in this sequence to be greater than 1000? Show you're working. You should continue the sequence until you find out about the first term that is going to be more than 1000. So continuing this sequence, multiply by 4, then subtract 2. Multiplying 38 by 4 is going to give you exactly 152. Then you subtract 2, gives you 150. So that's the next term, 150. After that, what is going to be there? I'm going to multiply by 4, which is 600. Minus 2 is going to give you 585. 580, sorry, 598. 598. This is the next term. Now the next time we roll over there, yes, 598. Then, if you would like to multiply this by 4, that's going to be the first term that is greater than 1000. Multiply 598 by 4 is going to give you here 32, carry over the 3. This is going to give you 36, and 3 is third line. This is going to give you 23. Then minus 2 gives you 2390. So the first term that is greater than 1000 is 2390. Write the first 4 terms of each nonlinear sequence, the first 4 terms. So the first one here, they said to you is 7. So I'm going to write 7 because they want the first 4. Term rule, add 1, then add 3, then add 5. Add 1 becomes 8. Add 3 becomes 11. Add 5 becomes 16. B, the first term is 15. Add 4, add 7, add 10. Add 4, 19. Add 7 is 26. Add 10 is 36. C, first term is 17. Subtract 2 becomes 15. Subtract 4 becomes 11. Subtract 6 becomes 5. The first term is 32. Subtract 8 becomes 24. Subtract 12 becomes 12. Subtract 16 becomes negative 4. Question 11. First term is 3. They wanted the first 3 terms. Term to term rule is subtract 1, then cube. Subtract 1 becomes 2. Cube it becomes 8. Subtract 1 becomes 7. Cube it becomes 343. If you don't know how to do this mentally, you know that 7 times 7 is 49, right? So 49 multiplied by 7, you're going to find that it is exactly 343. But next, because they want only the first 3 terms. That's it. So 38343. B, first term is negative 2. Add 3 becomes 0. Then cube it becomes also 0. Add 3 becomes 3. Then cube it becomes 27. The last question, which is C, first term is negative 3. Term rule is power 4. So negative 3 to the power of 4. Then subtract 77. That's going to require us to do negative 3 to the power of 3 is negative 27. But negative 27 times negative 3, definitely, we know for sure right now that it is what? It is going to become positive, but it's going to become 81, positive 81. Because we know, actually, you should know that 3 to the power of 4 is 81. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is going to give you 81. And it's going to be positive, then the power is even number. If the power is even number, then the answer is definitely going to be positive. If the power is an odd number, then the answer is definitely going to be the same sign, not negative. If it was negative, it will remain negative. If it was positive, it will remain positive. That's if the power was odd number. So here, negative 3 becomes positive 81. No, not positive 81, because we said actually what? Then subtract the 77. So it's going to become 4 exactly. Erase this. It is 4. 4. to the power of 4, well, 4 to the power of 3, we know that it's 64. Then multiply by 4 again, will give you exactly 256. 256 minus from it, 77, will give you exactly, this becomes 4, this becomes 16, then here, this is a 9, and the 4 becomes 14, and this becomes 1, so this is a 7, 1. So 179. 179. Sophia makes her own sequence. This is what she writes. First term is -2. Term-to-term rule is cube, then add this sign. Well, Sophia is saying that the only way I can get positive numbers in this sequence is if this asterisk sign is greater than 8. Is she correct or not? If you check this, you do -2, cube it. If you cube it, if you cube the number, becomes -8. She's saying the only way is to add a number greater than 8. Why, Mister? Because if she adds 8, she will get a 0. So if she wants a positive number, then she must add more than 8. So she is correct. She is correct. And what am I supposed to write, Mister, to justify my answer? You need to write this here, and then you add another example to it. If you say -2, and then cube it, becomes -8, and then you add 9, gives you +1. That will justify your answer. Question 13. This is part of Timo's work. The fifth term of a sequence is 72. The term-to-term rule is multiply by 2 and subtract 8. What is the third term of the sequence? Answer, he wrote this. To get the fourth term, we're going to get 72. And he subtracted 8. Then he multiplied by 2. Then the third term, he got the 128. He subtracted 8 again. And then he multiplied by 2. Is his method correct? Definitely no. Explain your answer and show all your working. No. Why? Because actually we were supposed, he must add 8 because we're doing the inverse. So we're going to do the opposite and in order from back to the front. So it's going to be add 8, then you must add 8, then divide by 2. Adding 8, then dividing by 2. So 72 becomes, add 8, becomes 80. Then 80 divided by 2 becomes 40. So 40. I take the 40 and I add 8, becomes 48. Then divide by 2 becomes 24. This is supposed to be your explanation. Question 14 here, it says to you, the fifth term of a sequence is 23. The term-to-term rule is multiply by half and add 12. Work out the second term of the sequence. We did this today in class. You're going to find that 23 is the fifth. They want which term? The second term. This is the fifth term. 23, we are supposed to do what? I'm going to go backwards. But minus 12, and then instead of multiplying by 1/2, you know that multiplying by half means what? As if you're saying exactly divide by 2, right? This is the meaning of multiply by half. It means divide by 2. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do 23 minus 12 as we agreed. Then instead of dividing it by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2. Equals 23 minus 12 is 11. 11 times 2 is 22. After that, so this is that fourth term, actually. This is the fourth term that we got. The fifth term was 23. Third term is going to be 22 minus 12 times 2, which is going to give you 10 times 2 is 20. The second, and this is what they want, the second term is going to become 20 minus 12, then you multiply by 2, equals 8 times 2, which is 16. This is what they want, 16. Yeah. Question 15, the first term of the sequence. A sequence is -4. The term-to-term rule is square and subtract 14. That's the first term. How many negative terms are there in this sequence? Show working to justify your answer. Here it says to you -4 is the first term. Square it becomes 16. 16. Subtract 14 from it becomes 2. Right? Look at this again. -4 is the first term. Square it becomes +16. +16 minus 14 is 2. But let's continue. If you want to square this, becomes 4, right? So if I want to square it, becomes 4. 4 minus 14 becomes -10. Square it becomes 100. Minus 14 gives you 86. Now that's it. If you square this, definitely it's going to become a positive number that is bigger than 14. So when you subtract 14, it will definitely be positive again. So only 2 numbers. How many negative terms are there in the sequence? Only 2 terms. The last question. This is Gina's homework. There is a mark covering one of the numbers. Question is, the third term of a sequence is 0. The fourth term of the sequence is 512. The term-to-term rule is add something and then cube it. What is the first term of the sequence? Well, let's agree on one thing, that if you add something to 0, it will be that thing, right? So it will be that number that you're going to add. So you add what? So that question mark, or X, you can name it X. When they said what? They said that the fourth term is this. You add and then you cube it. If you cube it, gives you 512. If you know the cube numbers that we listed in the beginning of the year and that I requested from you in the beginning of the year, you're going to find that 8 cubed is equal to 512. If you're not sure, 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 64 is going to give you exactly 512. So 8 cubed. So the number that we added was actually 8. So when you cube 0 plus 8 is 8. When you cube the 8, it's going to give you 512. So what is the first term? Now I need to do what? I need to go backwards. The term-to-term rule is add 8, then cube it. So now what am I supposed to do? Minus 8 to get to the second term. To get to the second term, you need to move backwards. How? Subtract, you're going to get the cubic root. We started from the end. The end is that you get the cubic root of 0. And then instead of adding 8, I'm going to minus 8. Cubic root of 0 is just 0. Minus 8 so is going to become -8. This is the second term. The first term is going to be what? Cubic root of -8. So I'm going to get the cubic root of -8. And then what do we do? And then you subtract 8, not add 8. We're going to go backwards. So then you subtract 8. The cubic root of -8 is what? Is -2. Minus 8 is -10. So here is the first term. First term is -10. What is the answer to Gina's homework? Show how you worked out your answer. This is how you do it. Thank you so much and see you in another video.